For the sake of this demonstration, I have chosen just to do fairy tales, and I grabbed Cinderella because it is a free domain access in this original version. Obviously this image isn't because it's from a recent movie, but what I did was select this image, and from there created a color palette so that what I'm using throughout any graphic elements that I'm including match the right colors for this particular piece. And because I'm doing fairy tales, the target audience I think should be kids. So as I'm setting up paragraph styles, what I want to do is just think about the audience and think about how I want that type set up. So I'm just going to highlight this paragraph here, and I'm going to go to a paragraph. There's two ways that you can go about this. You could start with the paragraph setting here, or you can just dive straight into a paragraph style and hit new. The first thing that I want to do is name this, and I'm going to call it the first paragraph for section. And the reason that it's just the first paragraph for the section is because I want to do a drop cap, and I want to make it 3 lines. So you can see the preview here is 3 lines, and I want the characters to be, let's do Arno Pro, which is a really nice serif typeface with a lot of different weights. You can see there's like so many of them. So regular weight will be perfect for our just generic body copy, but because the audience is kids, I want to make the type size larger. Now, if you're doing a high-end design piece, you're probably actually going to make your type size smaller because 12-point font is pretty big. So I usually run between 9 and 11 on body copy for more high-end or shorter format or business. 12 is pretty big, but again, kids are our audience, so let's hop up to 14. We're going to increase the leading a little bit because kids really do well with more space in between the whole thing. And let's just add a little bit of tracking here just to help the letter forms show up clearly. Now, ligatures are those spaces, their character styles or glyphs in a palette that will allow you to connect different letters. So it would be connects a T to an I, like in lowercase, or an F to a T where it would connect the stems. But for kids or for formal or more modern work, it's probably a good idea to turn the ligatures off. For kids especially, you want them to be able to see the individual letter characters and forms. And so for my audience, for this piece, I don't want ligatures. Now, as we're moving through and talking about all of the elements here, I want spacing. I don't want to indent my paragraphs, so I'm going to do some spacing afterwards. And so 0.1875 is what I'm choosing, and that will be just fine. And if you'll notice, it's only affecting this paragraph that I have highlighted. And let's just keep going. So hyphenation. Hyphenation is important for a long form piece, but you want to make sure that you're not hyphenating incorrectly. It's good practice to have at least 6 letters in your word that you're hyphenating, and I prefer to have at least 3 characters before and after, so you don't want to have a word hyphenate like by, standard, and then you end up having 2 words within the document or within one word that really picks out, because it can change the meaning. And then the hyphenation zone is how many hyphens you're allowing to have within a particular range of space. And I like to default to fewer hyphens. If you're choosing to justify your type across, that's totally an option. I prefer to do a 90, 100, 110 setting. And that's basically saying I desire you to be spaced at 100% of the norm, but the minimum spacing would be 90% and the maximum is 110. And it helps the document to know how to flow the text in the instance that you're doing a justified paragraph. Now, a lot of times in books, you'll see justified paragraphs. I'm choosing not to in this case because it can make some of the spacing really odd for kids, but it might be appropriate for what you're doing. So I'm just going to say, okay. And now we're looking here, and if I am clicked anywhere in this paragraph, I can see it's the first paragraph for the section. Now, if I was to click in this next paragraph and type in the first paragraph for the section, I can see, oh man, you're creating another drop cap, and I don't want that. So I'm going to create but I want to keep all the other text settings because I've designed them specifically for the paragraph. So let's create a new paragraph style and double click there, and we're just going to call this the body paragraph. It's currently based on the first paragraph for the section. You can keep that if you want to, but then you'd have to know if you made an adjustment to the first paragraph for section styling, it would apply that to anything that's based on. So I'm going to say based on no paragraph style for now, and the only thing that I want to change here is that I don't want the drop cap. So I'm just going to come back here and drop it down to one line, which means no drop cap, and hit OK. And so now what I could do really is go in and highlight the whole thing, say body, and then change this one back to the first paragraph. And so now all of my type throughout the entire document has been changed over to the body paragraph style that I've created. So you can see how it flows through. There would be possibly instances when you have a quote. And so let's just pick this section here, even though it's not actually a quote, but we'll just pretend. There is actually some text here and where they are talking, but we'll just pretend like this entire section is a quote. So let's create a special paragraph style just for the quote, and I'm going to double click there and I'm going to call it quote. And again, I don't want to base on anything because I don't want it to carry over changes that I might make later on. And in this case, I want it to be a italic display, and I want to increase the size of it a little bit so that it feels elevated and special, and I think that that is fun and looks good. And maybe what I want to do also to set it off is to indent it a little bit from the left so that it just says, hey, I am different. And probably we want to give it a little bit more air on the bottom and also some air on the top so that it's the same. Now remember, I added originally the paragraphs, I think, are here. I just did a couple clicks there, and I really only, because there's still space below the paragraph, in order to make it even, I didn't need to add the same amount here. So let's just look at that again. If it's 0, this is what it was set up before. If I up click twice and then I click up twice here, now it's the same top and bottom. Okay. So that would be a special quote that I would have, and I could, you know, maybe there's quotes throughout the moment, but I could just go in and say, here's a quote. Now, there's a couple moments where they have some fun little repetition of words, pick, 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 and you can see it right here. And I want to draw attention to that, but I don't want to make it its own paragraph style. If I was to just go in and start messing around with it and saying I want to make it bold and I want to make it a different color, then if I go back and look at the paragraph, you can see it says, you broke some rules in this paragraph. It's a paragraph plus. I could simply click override and it brings everything back to normal. Now, if I wanted to do the same thing, but I didn't want to override the paragraph settings, I can just have a character style. So I'm going to hit plus, and I'm going to say bold purple. So I would want to choose the typeface that I'm using, which is Arnold Pro, and I want to use bold. And I'm not going to do anything for size, leading, tracking, or any of this other stuff, because I want, when I say to make it bold purple, I want it to make it bold purple no matter the other inherent settings. So then I want it to say to be purple here. And so now it's done that. And I can look at it back on my paragraph styles, and it's not alerting me that there's an error in the paragraph style because I've created it as a character style. Now this is handy because there's all these other instances where it's saying pick, 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 and I want them all to look the same. So because I've set the character style, I now could just find these moments where it says pick, 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 and click the paragraph style that I've already made rather than going through and having to individually click purple, click bold, all the way through. Now, if I was trying to make white, purple, and bold, it automatically changes it to the size that the setting is in, but notice that it changed it from an italic to just regular bold. So if I wanted a bold italic, I would have to make a new style. So let's say bold italic purple. And I would just change the format here to bold display italic, if I have it, italic display, right? Because the others are in italic. And let's make this that. And so now you can see it fits in with the rest of the setting of that quote, but then I could use it for another quote here as well. So this is how you use character and paragraph styles throughout. Let's quickly go through and look at a presentation to see how I have used this in other formats. So I already have my swatches set for the lesson plans that I've given you, and I have character paragraph style set. I've got the section headers, the page headers. This is a section header. I've got the body copy, and then I created one for captions, which you'll see here. And then in certain places I have hyperlinks or sources. And so I was able to go through when I was creating your lessons and type in all the information that I needed and then assign to it the headers that I wanted in order for you to have a consistent look and feel. And so you can see consistently section header, body, section header, body. If I had just taken general type and put it in that didn't have paragraphs, like as I was entering it in, it just looked like a basic paragraph which had no formatting at all. And I could go in and just simply assign section header, body, section header, body, section header, oops, that's still body, section header, body. And you can see how easy it is because I had already created the paragraph styles to go in and take any amount of content that I inputted and make it look and feel like everything else. So here is where I have examples of how I've used character style. So you see soft proof, and that was a moment when I was trying to give a word, but I didn't want to have an extra character like a colon or a line break because I'm trying to be consistent on space. And so I just created a character style that is bold teal. And there's other moments where I've just used just teal. I keep on using, or just bold. I've used the same paragraph styles from week to week so that every lesson that I give you looks and feels the same. Now, I noticed a couple of errors on my paragraph style used when we did the terminology stuff, and some of the settings weren't correct. And it happened because you can look right here. I was going through and inputting everything and I didn't go back and double check. So if you look here, this says body plus, but it looks like a section header, and it's because of the way that I copied the information in. So I would need to change that to section header, and you can watch this spacing here is going to correct itself Boom. And so you can use the section headers or your paragraph styles to really control look and feel. This is how I've created all of your lesson plans from week 1. I created the paragraph styles that I was going to need and laid them out. And I've added the hyperlink and the caption later on down the road as needed, but it was all based on this initial section header and body copy that I created so that every presentation I give you has the same look and feel throughout the entire course. So it's really practical to use and really easy and allows you to go through and make quick changes and have a consistent look and feel. You definitely need to use paragraph and character style.